Once in Berlin, we made our way to the Bundestag, previously known as the Reichstag when Germany was an empire.
All the alterations at the Reichstag, which would mean this new steel and glass dome on top of the roof and the inside, that was all created in a new way by the British architect Lord Norman Foster.
The next monument we visited was the Brandenburg Gate.
From the west.
After the fall of the wall, the gate stood as a symbol of unity and freedom in a city that was divided into a communistic east side and a democratic west side for so long.
On day 2 of the journey, we took a bus tour of the city and visited the Berlin Wall. This wall separated the west side from the east side and was a symbol of the Cold War. It stood for 28 years until it fell on November 9, 1989.
Next, we were on our way from Berlin to Warsaw. The trip was long and arduous, which helped most of the students get some rest for the big day ahead. Once we arrived in Warsaw, we dropped off our luggage at the hostel and headed straight for the Warsaw Uprising Museum. On August 1st, 1944, Polish civilians declared war against the Nazis in hopes of creating an uprising and pushing back the Germans. In the span of 2 months and 1 day, 16,000 Polish soldiers fought for their lives to repel the German army. The museum was very well made, especially the fact that there was a sound of a heartbeat that could be heard wherever you were in the museum. This was meaningful as it depicted the heart and pride of Poland and how it's still beating and will continue to beat for eternity, no matter what it faces.
During our walking tour, we came across remnants of the ghetto wall and the stories associated with this tragic point in history.
He would wait for the little smugglers, so the little kids, it was easier for them to go through the holes in the wall of the ghetto to smuggle some food. So he waited for them to form a group and they would kill them with one shot only. That's the reason he was nicknamed Frankenstein, because he was perceived as a monster.
Tiles such as these ran along the whole city as a reminder of where the ghetto wall once stood from 1940 to 1943. Also to remember the estimated 300,000 people who lost their lives mostly due to the terrible living conditions inside the ghetto. This is the bridge that connected Ghetto A to Ghetto B, and a part of it still remains today, along with parts of the original ghetto wall.
After a train ride from Warsaw, we arrived in Krakow, home of Schindler's Factory and Auschwitz. On our first day, we explored the old square and listened to taps be played on the bugle from St. Mary's Church, a tradition that repeats itself every hour. We then did a quick walk through the courtyard of Wawel Castle. It was originally constructed by Casimir III the Great, who reigned from 1333 to 1370. In 1950, the castle was transformed into a museum, and it remains that way to this day.
Our first stop on the list for Krakow was Schindler's Factory. Schindler's Factory depicted the invasion of the Nazis into Krakow territory and how they took control of the population. The Polish army tried to resist, however the German army had much more munition and easily overpowered Poland. The Germans...
About 2,000 of planes, and the Polish army had only about 400 planes. The Wehrmacht had about 2,800 of huge modern tanks of the type Panzer I and Panzer IV, main force understand. And the Polish army had only about 600.
The museum also depicted the heroics of Oskar Schindler and how he saved hundreds of Jews at the risk of his own life. This museum truly was an eye-opener for most of us and taught us new knowledge about the struggles of Krakow and the hero Oskar Schindler. After the factory, we went on to visit the salt mines. Organized by our very own colleagues, the salt mines were a fantastic experience with extremely beautiful scenery.
Usually took from the moment when the train arrived to the moment when the Nazi doctor dropped the poison into the gas chamber, it usually took from 3 to 4 hours. 3 to 4 hours, it's straight away. The cattle wagon that you can see here is original. It was brought here from Germany only a few years ago. So this is the exact same type of cattle wagons that the Nazis would use to transport Jewish people to those 6 death camps. And you remember when I told you that they would put up to 80 people in that one?
Was Prague. Day 8 was simply a time for the students and teachers to kick back, relax, and enjoy the sights of the city. To add icing to the cake, during our bus ride to Prague, we had the honor to view a solar eclipse, an astronomical occurrence that occurs once every 2 to 3 years or so.
Biking in Prague was a great way to explore the city in such a short period of time. We visited the Prague Castle, Charles Bridge, and the State Opera House, to name a few. The city full of history, art, and culture was the best way to end such an amazing trip.